demo, first day of NRA 2015. Ooh, the stove is hot. Of NRA 2015 show. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited that you are all here for our first demo. So if anyone can hear me on the show floor, come on down. We have a very exciting day ahead. Thank you for being a part of this. These next 4 days are jam-packed with incredible celebrity chefs who are here to share with all of you foodies their favorite techniques, recipes, their secrets, their stories from inside their own kitchens. And my name is Sally Lou Loveman. I was here last year, the year before. I'm thrilled to be back again as your host at the World Culinary Showcase. Before we get started, I'd like to tell you about something special tomorrow. It's the keynote presentation. It's titled The State of the American Dream 2015. It's at the Grand Ballroom at 2 p.m. and the doors open at 1:30. Tickets are free, but you have to be wearing your badge in order to be admitted. It is a conversation between NRA President Dawn Sweeney, and CEO, I should say, Dawn Sweeney, and the media mogul Ariana Huffington. So it promises to be empowering, engaging, and definitely a fun time to be. So that's tomorrow at 2 p.m. All right, are y'all ready? I'm ready. I see, it's nice to see some familiar faces too. So hello to all of you who come to the show every year, and thank you. So give yourselves another round of applause for being here, first timers. And thank you for our Near Chef Experience friends that are sitting here. Okay, ready to kick off this year's 2015 World Culinary Showcase. Our first chef, he wears a lot of hats. This man is a busy man. He's a chef, restaurateur, author, television personality, environmental advocate, and philanthropist. I want to welcome to the show, and let me just say that this is a show that is sponsored by Vitamix. I want to say that I would like you all to welcome the fabulous James Beard Award winner and Chicago's very own Chef Rick Bayless.
This is that ice cold Michelle fight for that white gold. This one for them.
I'm sorry. Here he is. Chef Rick Bayless.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chef.
I don't usually miss my cues, but
Sorry.
we were having some trouble with the microphone, so I'm very sorry that I didn't come out when she said that. Thank you all so very much for being here. I was super worried when I walked in here that none of you would find us over here in the Lakeside building. I walked in and immediately went to where the World Showcase always has been, only to find out that I was in the wrong place. And so you guys are smarter than I am because you actually got here and you got here on time. Thank you very much for coming out. Okay, so I have a new book out. And this book is really dedicated to home cooks, but there's so much stuff in it that I think any professional can use, that I want to take off from some of that and share a couple of recipes from that book with you guys this morning. And the reason I do, the book is called More Mexican Every Day. 10 years ago, I did this book called Mexican Every Day. It was super popular because what I did was to distill the quickest ways to get to really good, bold flavor, traditional Mexican flavor, but do it quickly. Now, I have written a bunch of cookbooks in my life. It took me like 5 years of writing books to do all this stuff really quickly. And after I distilled that, it became a part of a home cooking. So I decided that since the availability of ingredients to us over this last 10 years has just quadrupled, quintupled, I don't know, we've just got so much more to work with, that I decided that I wanted to revisit this whole notion of food made well and quickly. So I'm going to start with this, I think. So I'm not going in and out here. So we're still having trouble with microphones. I've got some, I don't know, celestial bodies over here. Now, I have tried to do a cooking demo with a handheld mic before. And you can imagine that it's a little challenging when you have to do that. But it was actually quite fun because it was one of the most memorable cooking demos that I ever did, because I learned how to keep the microphone way up here and chop and saute and stuff like that. I kept dropping it, however, and it really startled the crowd, so I'll try not to do that today. I don't know if I don't think it's working yet, so we'll get it all right. Okay, let's go back to this little introductory business of why I'm cooking 2 dishes for you guys out of More Mexican Every Day today. Number one, because I think the basic techniques that I use in this book are techniques that you guys need even if you're cooking in a professional kitchen. Because let's face it, we oftentimes have to get a dish done super quickly. Now, whether that's in the execution on the line or in prep, we have to know how to get things done really quickly. So the first chapter of that book is called How to Win a Top Chef Quick Fire Challenge. Because when I was competing on Top Chef Masters, I realized that whoever won the Top Chef Quick Fire Challenge was always the person that followed this really clear set of rules and regulations. Because we all have the opportunity to cook, we all have the opportunity to create flavors in a certain way, but if we pull the right things together, we can get there really fast. We can get there slowly too, and I like slow cooking and all that sort of stuff, but I realized that all the people that won those quick fire challenges were people who followed this one path. So I delineate all of that in the first chapter of this book because I think it really helps us as professional chefs to be able to understand how to get to good flavor fast. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit during this demo. The second reason that I wanted to do this, a couple things out of this book, is because I'm really chafing these days against how Mexican food has been put in this tiny little box. And I thought that the box was getting bigger, and yet over the last couple of years I've seen that the box has actually kind of gotten smaller. And when I say that, it has to do with the fact that everything has become a taco. Okay? It's like you look at what chefs are doing, they're all opening taquerias. It's like if you thought that Chinese food was all orange chicken. Okay, there's a lot more there. But if people opened up orange chicken restaurants, we'd all go, come on, there's got a lot more than this. Japanese food, it's more than just sushi. Even though you can buy sushi everywhere from the department stores and grocery stores to, yes, there is really a gas station sushi available out there somewhere. So everybody started to think about you just wrap everything in a tortilla and you've got a taco. And I'm here to say that, Mexican food needs to break out of that. Yes, we all like to eat that. It's fun. It's all that kind of stuff. American food is more than just a hamburger. We need to break away from that too. But we've gotten in this mindset that Mexican food right now is all about the taco. So I'm going to show you 2 dishes that will really surprise you. The thing that has changed so much on the landscape of American ingredients has been vegetables and our approach to vegetables. So not only do we have lots of farmers markets to go to, incredible grocery stores that have amazing departments of produce that just go on and on and on, and as chefs, we can get a whole lot more product. Now, our restaurant, we work a lot directly with the farmers that are in this area. And so we are able to actually ask them to grow things for us, or we go to the farmer's market and meet new farmers and they're growing something I've never heard of, and we bring those things back into our restaurant. And what we ask is not how is this ingredient used in the place in the world that it comes from originally. We ask, what would somebody in a Mexican kitchen do with this ingredient? And so I asked that question really strongly, vividly, and in depth in this book. Because like the whole middle section of it is devoted to the vegetables in the Mexican kitchen. Vegetables that sometimes are normal to think about in a Mexican kitchen. Tomatillos, different kinds of chilies, different kinds of summer squash, maybe nopales, the cactus paddles. And then there's sections on unexpected vegetables in the Mexican kitchen. And that's kind of where we're going to start today with this demonstration, is in one of the ingredients that you might never associate with the Mexican kitchen. And yet in Mexico, you can find it in every market. So why do we not associate it? Again, because our vision has been narrowed. And we're sort of at this place where we think a lot about, oh, no, these are the few ingredients and the few dishes that make up the Mexican repertoire. Okay, so let's start with this dish that's going to focus on eggplant. Okay, so probably a lot of you are thinking that's like really a weird thing to think about for a Mexican dish, but eggplant. But where we're really going to start this is with this seasoning preparation that is smoky and spicy and sweet. Three things together. So if you think about smoky, spicy, and sweet, you're halfway to barbecue sauce, right? Okay. So if you're thinking about where the flavor profile of this is going, it's sort of going in that direction. But this is a traditional Mexican flavoring, and it's associated with the state of Veracruz on the Gulf Coast of Mexico. And there they make this stuff called salsa negra. And you can find, in my second book, Mexican Kitchen, you'll find the whole laborious process of how to make a classic salsa negra. So I'm going to show you sort of my cheater version of it, but it's very satisfying. It's super satisfying in exactly the same way that the original is. But I go down a slightly different path. So when you're making the traditional one, you start with a dried chipotle chili. Now, it's not the brown one. It's the red one. So chipotle colorado is what they would call it in the state of Veracruz. And they would toast it very darkly in oil. And then they would soak it in sugar water. And then they would blend it. And then they would cook that base down and add more of the unrefined sugar, the piloncillo, and salt. Okay, so we're going to use the same chili, but we're going to use it in a different style. We're going to talk about the one that comes in the can because this is super easy for us to lay our hands on. So this is that chili that has been toasted and rehydrated in a vinegary tomato sauce. So I never mentioned vinegar. That's something that we're adding to this preparation here. So we're going to start with a couple of cans of this. You just pop the tops off of these guys, and then you can dump them into the food processor or the blender. I like the blender better for this because the blender gives me a little smoother mixture. Now you can use chopped up piloncillo, the cone sugar for this, or you can use some dark brown sugar, but you would use the dark for this. Put that into there. And then I've got a little bit of molasses, which is going to give you some of that flavor that comes from the dark brown sugar, or the dark sugar that is in the cone, the darkest one. So we're just like augmenting that. And I'm going to add to it some dark vinegar. You could use dark sherry vinegar or balsamic vinegar for this. And then blend that until I've got a smooth puree. And then that gets cooked down. The words salsa negra translate directly as black salsa. So you notice that the color of this is not black here. So we would put this into a saucepan and we'll cook it. And as it cooks down, you will notice that it will get darker and darker and darker. So I hope that we can go back over and see this other pot that's right behind it. We're going from what I would call sort of a brick red color now to this darker color that's over here. That takes about 30 minutes of simple simmering. Not a long time consuming thing, but you notice that the color has gotten darker. Now, to reinforce the darkness, the blackness of this, and to bring up the umami that you get when you develop flavor in the traditional way, I'm going to add a non-traditional ingredient. And that ingredient is dark soy to this. And you add your soy to it, stir that in, let that cook a little bit longer, and you'll have your salsa negra ready to go. Now this salsa negra will be almost the same color now as the salsa negra that you would make by the traditional method, but it's one that you can get to with more readily available ingredients. And so I like to introduce it to people because I think it's got a lot of potential. When you taste it, it's an automatic umami wallop to whatever you put it into. And I love that because this is a way to get to really good flavor fast. This will keep in your refrigerator for 3 months, 5 months. I mean, it's basically got an indefinite shelf life because it's got the soy in there, it's got all the sugar in there, it's got vinegar in there, it's all preserved basically, and it's cooked down to almost a paste. So you've got a lot of goodness going, concentrated goodness going there, and also a goodness that you can keep for a long time. Now the next step that we're going to go through with this is to talk about our eggplant. My suggestion always with eggplant is to use anything but the globe, the big ones, the purple exterior. And the reason that I say that is that the texture on those guys is not as, it's not as compact, and they're not as sweet. So I always say look for something that's like this. We've got the Japanese whites, and we've got these long skinny ones that usually go by an Italian name. There's a lot of different varieties, but if you work with local farmers, if you shop at farmers markets, you're going to find a lot more of this kind of eggplant than you are of the large globe ones. So this we're going to want to cut into rounds and toss with our salsa negra. Yes. You're having mic problems. I can hear you, but I don't think anybody else can.
I wanted to ask you about your own farm that you have.
Yes.
We all know about it. Do you use the produce from your own farm?
Yes.
In Wicker Park?
Well, to call our spot
I'm
a
calling it a farm.
I love the generosity of that,
Okay.
but it's really a plot is what it is. But it's a plot that we use to illustrate to people that you can grow a lot in a really small urban environment. So it's a show plot in a lot of ways because it's a really beautiful place, but it's also a highly productive place because of Bill Shores, our master gardener that runs that whole project. And so he's got 1,000 square feet. Now you just think about what 1,000 square feet is. It's 100 feet by 10 feet. So this is a really small plot. And out of that, he can basically provide us with $30,000 worth of produce every growing season. So basically 6 months. But he knows exactly what to grow, how to grow it, and how to make this whole thing work so that he's constantly succession planting and starting early and going really late. Okay, so...
Is it used only in your restaurants, or
yes,
do others?
Only in our restaurants.
Okay,
only in
awesome.
our restaurants. Okay, so I have tossed this eggplant with some of the salsa negra there, and we would spread that out onto a rimmed baking sheet and put it into the oven and let it concentrate 425 degrees for about 25-30 minutes, depending on the thickness of your eggplant. So what you get from this is this wonderful texture with that spicy, deep, rich umami goodness on the outside of it. Spicy, smoky, sweet, salty, all of those really great flavors that will go together to be something really delicious, I think, for your guests. Okay, next step. We're going to make a black bean sauce, also seasoned with the same salsa negra. This, I would say, is one of our go-to sauces in our restaurant all the time. Now, you could just puree some canned chipotles and add it, but when you add this goodness to it, it makes it sound like a symphony. It makes it taste like a symphony in your mouth. So we're starting with some cooked black beans that are going to go into the blender along with the cooking liquid. You want almost equal portions of that. This is a moment when you realize that cooking your own black beans from scratch will give you a much better product than using any kind of a canned product. The juice you get off the canned product will be gray, whereas the home-cooked black beans will give you black. Now, here's the deal. You've probably all heard that you're supposed to soak the beans overnight and then throw away the soaking liquid and start over. Mexico never does that. It's not part of the cuisine to do that. That's only for our delicate little North America systems, that we're soaking out the oleosaccharides that are in there to make them easier to digest, and turning out the grayest, ugliest food in the world. So in Mexico, the reason that people have no digestive problems with beans is that they eat them all the time. The systems are really set up to be able to deal with all of that stuff. So in Mexico, you put the beans in a pot with some water and you cook them. Slice of onion goes in there, maybe a little bit of pork lard can go in there to add that richness. Then when they're pretty close to done, you add your salt and you let them simmer a little while longer, and that's just super delicious. It's just a great way to cook beans and get a black broth. So think about that. So we've got that all into the blender jar here. I'm gonna blend that to a smooth puree. You'll notice that it will lighten up, but it stayed fairly dark in here. I'm gonna give it a burst. And we'll put that into a pan over here.
I know consistency is a big thing with you, obviously. And are these the staples that you always have at your restaurants? The first salsa negra and this.
We always have salsa negra. I do 4 different, I call them secret weapons, that I always have at my refrigerator at home, but we also have them in our refrigerator at the restaurant. So one of them is salsa negra. Another one is a roasted garlic mojo de ajo with olive oil. A third one is a red chili adobo with garlic and vinegar, because that's a perfect marinade for anything, or a little dollop in a sauce can just make it perfect. And then the fourth one is a green chili adobo, little known in this country, but one of my absolute favorite things to have here. So we always have those 4 things, and as I said, they get us to really good flavor really quickly. Okay, so I'm gonna take some of our salsa negra and stir that into this bean sauce here. It's going to give it, when you blend the beans, you know all black beans are a kind of tan color on the inside. So when you blend them with the black broth, it will turn slightly gray. Some of that will go away as it is cooling, as cooking down here. But this little bit of salsa negra will give the whole thing a really beautiful look. So we're going to let that heat up and simmer together for just a little bit until, and I'm going to need to give it just a touch of salt. Nice. Okay. There's a moment that this sauce needs here, and while it's starting on that, I'm going to go on to this second dish that I have for you today that is quite an unexpected thing as well. And it's based on cauliflower. Now, you may or may not think of cauliflower as being a major ingredient in the Mexican kitchen, but I can tell you that it is a really major ingredient. That every Mexican market, no matter how small, will always have a lot of cauliflower. So why is that? Where does it go in the Mexican kitchen? Well, cauliflower can go into a lot of the soups and stews and things that are simmered for quite some time. But the place that most people think of cauliflower in the Mexican kitchen is in the pickles. They love pickled cauliflower. When you're thinking about cauliflower outside the realm of the pickles, however, my suggestion always is to think about how you can present it so that it doesn't look just like little bits on a plate. Now, we have sometimes chopped this stuff up and made something that looks like couscous out of it, which is loads of fun to do. But oftentimes we just see cauliflower in little florets. And that doesn't get many of us very excited. So what I'm going to show you here is something that I learned from a chef friend in Texas, actually, who made his cauliflower into steaks. So I don't know if you've ever seen this happen before, but it's not a hard thing to do, but it requires that there be a little bit of waste. So when you trim the leaves off of the outside of the cauliflower, you start cutting it, and the first piece that you cut off will be about like that, okay? And then this becomes part of another dish. You have to save that for another dish. And then in about 1-inch pieces, you slice your steaks.
Is there a trick? Like, does the cauliflower have to be cold, room temperature?
No,
to
it's
cut?
just,
So
it will hold together very nicely.
Okay.
Out of each one, you will get about 4 steaks. I lost the last little piece out of that one, so this one wouldn't be a full steak, but here I've got 3 beautiful steaks. And these are going to become the center of a plate for me in something that is going to be like an entree. But for my guests that are eating vegetables, I don't call them vegetarians because there's a lot of us that love to eat vegetables but don't live the vegetarian lifestyle, so I stay away from that word as much as I can. You get something in the middle of your plate that doesn't look like just a pile of vegetables that somebody steamed or roasted for you. So what we're going to do with this one is I've got some butter here that I have browned a little bit, and I am going to put it on these cauliflower steaks that I have over here. Now, the cauliflower steaks to do this recipe with need to be par cooked. So if I'm working at home, I use my microwave as a steamer because it's the fastest way to steam. So I would just put these into a bowl, throw a couple tablespoons of water in there, cover it with plastic wrap, poke a couple holes in the top, microwave them for 3 minutes. If I'm at work and I'm doing a lot more of them, they'll go into the steamer in a perforated steamer pan, and they'll cook for about 5 minutes in that application. So these are steamed and ready to go. And I'm going to take this browned butter that I have here and just brush it over the tops of these par-cooked pieces of cauliflower. And then we'll put them onto a grill pan, or if I was at my restaurant, we cook over wood grills. And so I would cook it over the wood grill, which is a little bit hotter than this one will be right here at this moment, I think.
I really love this concept. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It really comes out looking very, very nice.
Beautiful.
Okay, so we have got flames. We've got all kinds of things going on here this morning. I'm going to see, because I haven't worked on this stove very much, I'm going to see what
fast.
these guys look like here when I start to flip them over. Nice. Okay, so we'll let that grill away for a few minutes while I plate this eggplant dish. Okay. So I'm going to come over here and make something for you guys to taste. Thank you for being my guinea pigs here this morning. And I'm going to put a little bit of this beautiful black bean sauce with salsa negra on the plate. And then on top of the salsa negra, I'm going to do the roasted eggplant. Now I've chosen, because I wanted to give you small little tasting portions today, to do the eggplant in smaller pieces. I can also slice these thicker and make it into much more of an entree-ish looking thing. So I'm gonna sprinkle some of these guys over the top of that. And then we're gonna put crema, Mexican crema, which is much more like a creme fraiche. A little bit of that over the top here. And you'll notice when you eat this that it's going to have this one's going to have, because I wanted to do this in a kind of different way, a very beautiful kind of lovely chewiness to the eggplant rather than the softness. Now, if you wanted to make this into soft, you just slice them thicker and then cook them a little bit less than what I did here. Homemade Mexican queso fresco over the top of this guy. Those of you that have never made cheese, you can even find it online that I have the way that we make it in our restaurant. And I think that making fresh cheese, Mexican fresh cheese, is super easy and really worth the time, especially if you have a really good source for local milk that tastes beautiful. I've got some leaves of cilantro to go over the top of this here, and then I'm going to put this right over here for you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
very
pretty.
much. And I hope you like all these flavors here.
Are they going to start
You,
feeling that
sir?
umami? I love the word. Let's everyone just say, as our friends start to eat, umami. 1, 2, 3.
Umami.
Umami.
Yes, okay. But I actually have to take a picture of it here too. You know how it is.
Very
important. We got to have some record of what we've all eaten, right? Okay, now there's
you so
yours,
much.
beautifully photographed, I may say there. Okay, so let's go back to our grilled cauliflower steak
supposed to try it or what?
preparation over here.
You can start.
We can try
Okay.
it? Oh, okay.
Yes, please
can
do,
start.
because I'm going to have something else for you.
Yes.
And then we'll go to some question and answer. So I hope you guys have been thinking about questions for me. So let's finish the flavorings that are going to go onto this grilled cauliflower dish. I mean,
Like that.
clearly I'm going to use this browned butter that I have working here. And I'm going to use something that is sort of a little bit of a takeoff on that mojo de ajo that I mentioned before, that bath of garlic. And I'm starting this one by chopping up some garlic to go in the browned butter. Now, I assume that you guys all know that browned butter has a much greater impact than just melted butter. You can get by with using a lot less butter when you brown it. And when you add garlic to it, that even increases its punch. So I'm chopping up this garlic. I want this garlic to be in fairly small pieces here. And I guess I could do, when I do this at work, I will put it into a food processor and pulse it. I'm not too worried about a little irregularity in the size of the pieces because they're going to soften in the cooking, and that's going to not be very noticeable. So I think they're chopped enough for me right now. So that's all going to go into the browned butter to soften just a little bit. I'm going to spread out these plates here while I'm finishing making this condiment that's going to go on it, because I don't want these guys to get too overcooked. How are we doing over there? You like it okay?
I was going to say, they look happy.
I like the looks
And they're
on your
drinking
faces
water.
there. Is it too spicy for you guys? No. And the funky, chewy eggplant, did you like that
Yeah,
texture?
good.
It's kind of fun.
Very good.
Okay.
Chef, can we do one quick question from Jenny
yes,
while you're cooking?
please.
Yes, I was wondering for the cauliflower, will it work well on a grill, your home grill at home?
Oh,
The
absolutely.
charcoal grill?
Yeah, I just am. We don't
Okay.
have a grill here, so I'm just using this
Okay,
grill
so
pan
stay
here.
well on a grill,
But
okay.
just do it on the grill. You need
Okay.
to par cook it because you're just basically warming it through at this
Okay.
point. Okay.
Thank you.
Now, to continue on with this, our garlic is now getting soft in here. I can smell it. I don't think you guys can smell it, but I can smell that it's become very aromatic. Usually 30 seconds to 45 seconds is enough to soften and take away the punch of the garlicky stuff, you know? The stuff that most of us don't care for very much. I am completely not a fan of raw garlic in anything. I don't like it. I think it overpowers most everything. And I think as a dish sits, it becomes more garlicky if the garlic has not been cooked. Plus, I like to use a fair amount of garlic, but that allows me to use more garlic because I'm cooking it. Okay, so we've got that ready there. And then into the food processor here, I'm going to put some raisins that have been soaked in a little bit of tequila. Okay, that will give us a nice little
That sounds good,
punch. Unfortunately, not enough to feel anything from, but at least you get this little bit of flavor. I'm using a combination here of the golden raisins and the dark raisins. We've got some peanuts that are going in here.
How long do you have to soak them?
It takes about, well, okay, here's the thing, that if you want to do this quickly, again, I will use my microwave for that. I'll throw them in a microwave for about 1 minute and let them set for 4 or 5. But if I'm really making a lot of food at the restaurant, I would just pour my tequila on it and let them set for 20 or 30 minutes at room temperature. But that's because I'm cooking a lot more. But if I'm working fast at home, I'll just throw them into the microwave. Okay, so we've got the 3 ingredients that we need to have in here. And I'm going to pulse them until we get a kind of fine chop. So you can just think about what flavors we're working with here. We've got the toasted nuttiness of those peanuts, and we've got the sweetness of the golden and dark raisins, kind of infused with a little bit of that flavor of the tequila. And then that's going to go into our browned butter. And then we're going to season it with a little salt, of course. And then 2 things that we call both of them pepper. Obviously black pepper, which is used very little in the Mexican kitchen. I know that all of you that have been through culinary school will come out with this notion that everything gets salt and pepper, that's all. But in Mexico, pepper is considered a very specific spice, and you don't use it on very many things. And when you use it, you really want it to shine forth as black pepper. So I'm using a little bit of it here. And then the other pepper that I'm going to use is the one that is the most confusing to people, because we are taught that these little chilies are called chili peppers. Now, in Mexico, you don't ever use the word pepper for that. You only call them chilies. But we have Christopher Columbus to thank for this confusion, because he was out looking for the way to get to the most expensive spice at the time, which was black pepper. So anything that reminded him of black pepper, he called pepper, hoping that he could dupe the people back home and he could give them crushed red chili and they would think somehow it was black pepper. Well, all he did was confuse us for all time, because people say, oh, it's a chili pepper, when really it's a chili and pepper is another thing.
You're so smart. He's such a good teacher.
We're going to take some chili pepper here in the form of one of my favorite of the Mexican hot sauces. So this is Tamazula. Some of you in the audience may be fans of other Mexican hot sauces. Things like Valentina is another one that's very common out there. Buffalo is another one of the major brands that you'll find. So we are looking for something that is vinegary and spicy. And these are not made with fermented mash, so they're not going to taste like Tabasco. Tabasco is a very distinctive, funky flavor that comes from fermenting the chili puree. And all Mexican hot sauces are made with non-fermented mash. Okay, so we're going to add that. And we would add this to suit your own taste. I like spicy, so I would add probably a couple of tablespoons of this sauce in it. By the way, the Mexican hot sauces tend to be a little less spicy than a lot of the American ones. So I'm going to give this a little taste now, and we'll see if the seasonings are right, meaning do we have enough of that hot sauce in there? Do we have enough salt in there?
Okay.
You guys like spicy?
Fine with that.
You're not convinced.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
We need
Ready.
more water.
Spicy? Okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, we're just more water here. I'm going to give it just a little bit more hot sauce, and we'll see. We may have fun with you guys. Okay.
Don't kill us.
Chef Ruth has a question
Yes.
about your sauces.
Please.
Hi, Chef. I purchase your Frontera sauces in the pouch all the time in the retail packs. and
Yes.
I love them. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My question is, are they available to food service establishments?
We do a few of them in food service 1-gallon containers. And on our website, you can go to rickbayless.com and then go to the shopping thing.
He's putting a lot.
And it will take you into the Frontera Foods site for all of the food service stuff. The thing that I like about our sauces is that we actually make them at a place down in Texas that is basically just a great big restaurant kitchen. And we start with all raw ingredients, nothing comes in processed or anything, and we cook the salsas just like we would cook them at our restaurant. The only difference is that in our restaurant we can serve those things unpasteurized, and when we put them, obviously, for food service or for a retail pack, we have to pasteurize them first to give them the longevity and the shelf life that we actually need there for that. So it's otherwise they're just exactly the same recipes that we use in our cookbooks or at our restaurant or anything like that. Okay, so
Thank
here's
you.
the steak, all finished now with the hot sauce, peanut, raisin thing going on here.
I'm so excited.
And I'm going to put some leaves of parsley over the top of it. Again, I encourage everyone not to pigeonhole Mexican food into only being served with cilantro. I know we like it, I love it, but if you go to Veracruz, they won't be using cilantro. They'll be using parsley on this thing. And same thing in Oaxaca. They use tons of flat leaf parsley, and that's what they really love. So, oh, I got one more ingredient here, and that's just a little bit of the aged Mexican cheese to go over it. That will give another umami pop, which I think is really good when you're you're looking for something that is a vegetable center of the plate. You have to figure out ways that you're going to get that umami. So I'm going to put a little bit of the Mexican aged cheese that tastes a lot like a Parmesan or a Romano. And then we're ready to go over and present to our guests over here. Now, these portions are much bigger. You don't have to feel like you have to eat them. Please don't do that.
We could, though.
But you can. You can. I'm not going to complain if you do.
It's my favorite vegetable, so I'm excited.
Is it really? Oh, cool. I'm really glad to hear that. And I think you're really going to like the smokiness that you get from the grilling of that steak of cauliflower there.
They look
Okay.
beautiful.
So we've got, oh,
You wanna
wait a
take some
second, I didn't take
questions?
my picture. Okay, so
Take your
here.
Instagram picture.
I gotta take my Instagram picture. Come on up. Okay, so I'm gonna take the picture of you eating the
That's
cauliflower.
Carrie and that's Emily.
That's
George
great,
in the
Emily.
middle,
Thank
and
you so
Carrie.
much.
Awesome. Who's got some questions for Chef Rick Bayless?
Okay.
Stand up. What's your name?
My name's Donna. I adore you.
She has 15 questions for you.
I love them, and they're written out.
Okay, just
We may be here for a while. folks.
no, just 4 quick ones. I love watching you on Top Chef. Are you going back?
It's not too spicy.
No, at all.
People always ask me, was it fun? Because, they make it look like it's fun. I said my most fun moment in that whole competition was when I got on the airplane to come home. And I think I probably won't be going back to. I've done that. I've done that now. It's like I don't have to go back and do it again. It's intense. Like, you can't even believe how intense. And I was on Masters, which is less intense than the regular Top Chef, because we didn't have to stay in a house someplace. We got hotel rooms, and we could like actually decompress at the end of the night by ourselves. And although we had very little, most of the shoot days were 16 hours long. So you're just constantly on, and you're on in that, because it's a real competition. Like when they say, here's your challenge, that's the first time we're hearing about it. Now, the thing that you don't see is that they do stop the camera after they announce the challenge, and they make us all sit down at a table, but it's the table that's right there, and then they reread the challenge to us, and we have to, on camera, say we understand the challenge. Because obviously, if you don't understand the challenge and you make the wrong dish, then you're disqualified from that round or whatever. But that's it. And then they pop us right back up, and then you go right back into it. So you have no time to plan or anything. So it really is an intense thing. And just the adrenaline that rushes through your body while you're standing there waiting to see what is the challenge going to be, and are they going to ask me to, cook with a spleen or something like that, and I have no idea how to cook with spleen. I welcome things like cooking from vending machines, because I think that's fun. I play that game with myself all the time. When I pass a vending machine, I say, what would I make out of this thing? So I would have done that, but when it gets into those really weird things like that I hadn't cooked, I thought, I'm going to fail. So anyway, other question, ma'am.
Yes, I do. Okay, what's your favorite meal you've cooked for your favorite person?
Favorite meal for favorite person? I'm really, really bad at those kinds of questions, because
I have others.
I'm not one.
We'll give you one more.
My wife wants me to go back and cook her favorite dishes, and I'm like, no, I'm on to a new dish. I want to play around with this stuff. So I'm not so great at that.
Did you always decide to focus on Mexican food?
I went to Mexico when I was 14, and I just fell in love. When I got there, it felt like I had come home, and that led me to make Mexico a major part of my life. So since I was 14, yes.
Okay. Sorry. Do I need a reservation tomorrow night at your restaurant? And will you be there?
Okay, so Topolo is booked completely for tomorrow night. Frontera is, we're open on Sunday and Monday just for the show. We're usually closed on both of those nights, but we have taken reservations in Frontera, but there's also a bunch of tables that are held out just for first come, first serve walk-in people. So if you're interested in checking out Frontera, I would encourage earlier rather than later, or really late, one or the other.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And is it really true that you do the splits every morning?
Well, I don't do the splits every morning, but I do the splits most mornings. But I'm a big yoga guy, so
I know.
That's part of the level that I'm at, that you do all that kind of stuff.
How soon into the practice did you learn that?
Many years into it.
Okay.
Many years.
Yeah, it takes a
I've been
while.
doing yoga for almost 20 years, and really seriously for 10 at a higher level. So I've been doing the splits. I did it for about 10 years ago. I started working on them, and it took me about a year to finally get into them after I'd been doing it for a long time.
That's amazing. And what's your next challenge?
Oh, it's the press-up handstand.
Right.
And I was working on it this morning before I came over here. But a press-up handstand, for those of you that don't know what it is, so usually if you're going to go into a handstand, you put your hands on the ground and you kick up into it. A press-up is where you just walk your legs in and you just lift them up.
It's all core.
And it's all core and shoulders. And so I've been working on this for about a year and a half now, and my progress is just that far into it. So I dream. They say it's good to visualize. I sit around and visualize all the time that I'm going to be able to do this one time, but my progress is not very good.
And think of the power of this audience
Yes,
right here.
you
Let's
guys
all
help me.
visualize Rick doing the prepless handstand. I hope you were able to do your practice during Top Chef. That might have alleviated some of that crazy stress.
I did it every single day. I did yoga every single day when I was in Top Chef. Other questions from anyone
I'm running
here?
over here for a question.
Okay. You guys are great. Thank you all so very much for
What's
being
your name?
here. I appreciate it.
Hi, Chef. My name
Hi.
is Irma. I'm from Guadalajara.
Oh, wonderful.
So I guess my question for you is, Mexico has so many regional flavors.
Right.
What is, or do you have a particular regional flavor that you like best out of Mexico?
It's a very interesting question to look at the regional flavors, because just as though I was saying about how everybody has sort of pigeonholed Mexican food lately into being tacos, everything's about tacos, that doesn't lead people into these beautiful other flavors. Now, everybody expected that when we had Frontera, Topolobampo, and then the space came available on the corner, and we wanted to put a quick service place in there, and everybody said, oh, Bayless is going to open a taqueria. Okay? And I said, no, I'm not going to go down that path, because there's plenty of good taquerias out there. So I did a place that specializes in tortas, Mexican sandwiches, and caldos, the meal in a bowl soups. And so I like to introduce people to those kinds of things outside of what people normally expect, because people love them. All we have to do is just break away the blinders and take advantage of what's there. Same thing with regional flavors. So I spent a lot of my youth in Oaxaca. And it's a very complex cuisine. The land of the seven moles. Super well-defined cuisine. And so I tend to go back there a whole lot. Just north of there, Puebla's a very complex cuisine as well. I spend a bunch of time in Mexico City because you can find everything there. There's even a really good place to get a torta ahogada from Guadalajara. And they bring in the birote, the special bread.
Right.
It's made in Guadalajara, and it's shipped overnight by truck into Mexico City so that they can have fresh bread the next morning. So there's all these wonderful regional things, and that's what I really like to focus on. So in our restaurant, we change our regional focuses all the time. We just finished a whole 2 months just focusing on the flavors of Chiapas in our restaurant Topolobampo. We still right now are focusing on Oaxaca flavors in Frontera. So we're constantly changing. We'll do Yucatan, we'll do Guadalajara, we'll do all these different places because we want to introduce to our guests the opportunity to learn something more about the regional flavors of Mexico.
Wonderful. So tortas ahogadas that you're talking about, when is that going to be on your...
It's always on the menu at Xoco. It's actually our most popular of the tortas that we do.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's super, super good. We make it in a classic style with the carnitas on the inside of it and the really spicy broth on the tomato broth on the top.
Well, I'm guessing I'm going to have to try that one because I was in Frontera last night and I was trying some of your samplers.
Oh, nice.
Your street food because from Mexico, it's all about street food.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chef.
Certainly. Thank you for coming.
You. So is the rumor false that you're doing a pop-up taco sushi something?
No, I'm not.
False?
Last year, with our friends at Arami, a Japanese restaurant here, so this is the deal. The chef at Arami is married to the chef in Topolobampo. So we all hang out together, and I said, we should just do something fun sometime. Why don't we just do a one-night pop-up where every dish is a complete mashup of Mexican flavors and something from Japan. And we did, and I think that it was the best meal that we have ever made, ever. It was the most, and we did it on the fly. Everybody was just cooking food they wanted to eat. And it was so much fun. We just did it one night. It was sort of in stations, so we sold like 100 tickets to come to it because Arami's real small. And we just had a great time. So we did that once, but it's not necessarily going to
happen again. I know you have epic parties, so that might
We have epic parties. I like to parties. Yeah.
And I think
how is this stuff over here? You like You like
love
it?
it.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you so much.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Love the
Can I ask you a
contrast.
question?
Yeah, she's going to ask a question here.
At what point did you fall in love with cooking?
You know, I grew up in a restaurant family, and so I'm fourth generation, and I just always was in a restaurant kitchen since I was a little kid, and I loved it. My brother hated it. And it was like, I figured there must have been a switch up at birth or something, but I loved it. I was so much a part of the family, my grandparents, aunts and uncles, everybody had restaurants. Everything from drive-ins to steakhouses. And my parents had a barbecue restaurant. And so I just grew up in that restaurant and I always loved it. And I always wanted to work there. I started going with my father to work on Saturdays when I was like 6 or 7. And I would just hang out and stay in the back kitchen, the prep kitchen, and make things make things. Basically what I would do is go into the walk-in and see all the mise en place that was there, and I would pull things together, and it always involved melted cheese, and then I would cover it in cheese and stick it under a broiler, and then I would eat it. So even from a young age, I was interested in how you create flavors and what things go together and all that sort of thing.
It's amazing that it obviously is in your DNA, and your mom was a TV show host, right?
She did a bunch of TV, yes. Yeah, that was the other thing, and I guess that's where I grew up in doing a lot of theater work because so many people in my family were in theater or did that sort of thing, and my mother had a television series for a while. It was like a current affairs show.
Well, they made the great sauce for you and your brother, who's in television, right?
He's also in television,
the environment
exactly.
and being exposed in your DNA.
Right.
And I think it's interesting that you do a mashup with food because you're also very musical. So the music and food really play a big role in your life, right?
They do, and I really love it when I hear musicians get together from different traditions and they just start jamming. And the next thing you know, they're coming out with something that is really the combination of both of what the musicians do. And to me, that is some of the most interesting stuff in the world because a real true communication is going on there. And I always say that cooking is just communication. It's the cook communicating with the people at the table. And we communicate through the medium of food. And we can make people have wonderful times. We can make them elated. We can shock them with food. We can give them new flavors. And all of these things go together to create this really great back and forth communication. And so I always train all of our chefs to think about food, not in terms of your brilliance as a creator, but your brilliance as a communicator. How can you communicate most directly and effectively with the guests in our restaurant?
Well, you have elated us all today. Am I right, audience? You have elated us.
Thank you all. Thank
and
you
you
all
all,
so much.
I'm sure, feel very, very elated. Thank you. Let's give a round of applause for Chef Rick Bayless.
Thank you.
And Chef, you'll be signing your book over around the corner
over
there.
here. Thank you.
So if you don't have a book, you can purchase one in line or bring the one that you have. Chef Rick Bayless, we love that you always come back to the show. You changed my life by just simply telling me how to cut an avocado. That's how bad I am. Thank you very much. I always think of you when I'm doing that. So thank you so much. Have a great week here at Restaurant Week. And everybody try and get into Frontera, man, if you can.
I hope you all enjoy yourselves in Chicago and at the show. Thank you all.
Chef Rick Bayless.